Absolutely.
We're going to go ahead and move on to our next segment, though. And our next segment is a series of questions that we solicited from our viewers. So I don't know. There's no real great way to introduce this except to say that we just asked people to hook us up with some cool questions. So we're going to start things off with Chris Hallett, who I know was watching earlier, but he's from the UK and it's very late. And so he had to go to bed.
Yeah, Chris.
Which is understandable.
I hope he's still watching.
All right. Well, here is Chris's question.
Excuse me, young man. Excuse me. Thank you very much. Hey, you wonderful people. It's Chris Hallett here from the UK. I have a question for you. So imagine this. There's a website where you can upload a still from your favourite Godzilla film, and then they would take that still and commission your favourite sculptor to reproduce it in their style. So, for instance, I would choose 64 when Godzilla's next to the greenhouse incubator thing with the egg. Mothra's flying around, getting really annoying, flapping around in his face. I would have that reproduced by Yuji Sakai. It doesn't have to be Sakai. It can be anybody, obviously. Why would you choose anybody else, though, is my question. But hey. It could be like a Sufubi-style Marmot version of that scene, psychedelic, fat, funky kind of thing. So there's that one. And a little extra question, if I might be so bold, is if you could have any costume worn by any human character in a Godzilla film, what would you have? I would choose any of the suits worn by Akira Takarada in Mothra vs. Godzilla. Those suits are incredible, but specifically that cream one that he wears, ties, stripes. I'll send David a picture, maybe he can show that when you play this question, if you do. So 2 questions, there you go. Thanks for everything you do, love the show, keep up the good work, take care, and groovy.
Great questions.
You're awesome,
Great
Chris.
questions.
Really good questions.
Yeah. Very
Kakarot is always
very
on
British,
point with his suits.
Very British ending too. Just gotta fit it off there at the end. That's good stuff. All right, who wants to go first for Chris's questions for favorite a scene you'd like to see sculpted by your favorite sculptor?
Go ahead, Leslie, if you're ready.
Yeah, I am. Let's see. My favorite sculptor. Of course, it would be, anything by Sakai, right? But I'm going to think outside the box and not go with Sakai. And actually, I'm not going to go with my favorite movie, Mothra vs. Godzilla, because that he already took my answer. So good God Almighty! but if I had it my way, I would try and get Monster Maker 28 and Burley Vane from Radioactive Resin, and I would recreate the imposter Godzilla going up against the real Godzilla from '74 with the oil refinery as a background, because you saw the awesome background with the GPK stuff earlier, right? Mm-hmm. So if money was an option and if it was possible, give me the real Godzilla, the imposter Godzilla in the oil refinery. That's what I would like to have. Yeah, with explosions and everything.
That'd be cool.
That's a great answer, Leslie.
And now thank you.
Working on that.
They are?
His Twitter at Tensame or TENSAME on Twitter. He actually has a sculpt of that he's been doing. He's been showing pictures of it lately.
Oh my God!
It's gonna be a good size.
Leslie.
It's gonna be a good size.
Yeah. I think fairly size. He has. Yeah, I'll send you pictures.
Please do.
I will.
Oh my God! And also, for as like a costume from a human character. That was one I was really struggling with. I was struggling with that one pretty much all day. But the one that I would pick, and I think, Kyle, you have a picture of him.
Oh man!
You gotta do this.
I will so be Doctor Who with the hat and the cape and everything. But I will have good teeth on both of my jaws. Okay, let's get that clear. Because if you've seen King Kong Escapes, his upper jaw looks all right, but the bottom
Jacked
jaw
up.
was like a freaking minefield.
That's all
So
right. That's
That's
his,
up real.
his age. That's his contact.
so that's what I would be. Doctor Who.
That was a good
Okay.
one.
Oh man,
Doesn't get much better than that. That's perfect.
absolutely.
With the
That-
You
cape
need one of
too.
those.
Yeah,
With
with
the
the cape, you be scowling and
Badass.
profiling.
And it's
You're
like
doing it.
it's like in that film, it's like a lot of crazy off the wall stuff goes on. You know, we got giant gorillas, giant mechanical gorillas, giant hypnotized gorillas,
Yeah,
and all that good stuff. But nobody questions why this super villain is walking around with the cape behind his back and all that mess. So oh
he's
well.
like the count from
Yeah.
Sesame Street.
Yeah, but he's so cool. He's so cool. I mean, besides Mechanicon, he's like the best villain in the film. So it
Yeah,
is what it is. David, what about you? What would you like to
Man.
see?
Man, I love your last answer, so I'm still loving that. Because you know what? I could rock that cape too, man.
okay.
But I'm gonna leave you have that one. So this is really tough, Chris. This is a tough one because I love Mothra versus Godzilla, and you guys have both picked that. So I'm gonna go a little bit out of the box for me. And what's a toss up between two, and I'm just going to say both real quick. The first one would be because everybody's going to pick Sakai, who's the master, but
Yes.
Kira Ibaraki is super hot right now, and I love his work. It's just amazing, and I would love to see the very first appearance of Godzilla 1954,
Ooh,
that maquette puppet head over
yes.
the ridge.
Over there.
Oh.
Now, Sakai may
Yeah.
have done a little small scale version of that. I think I've seen it somewhere, or it might be a fan build or whatever. I'm sure Ryan Mitchell will tell me in the comments because he knows all that stuff. But I would love to see a big 30 centimeter mountain hillside range with that Godzilla, that head, that puppet maquette head, peering over, looking down. The first glimpse we see of Godzilla in any movie. I think that would be super cool.
Would be.
And we could even throw in an extra piece where you could put the cow that he picked up in
That would be great.
the production sketches that actually never made it into the film.
Yes,
I
yes.
think that would be
awesome.
really, 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 really cool. Now, the second idea I have, which is my first Godzilla movie, which is Monster Zero Kaiju Daisenso, the scene where Godzilla and Rodan are sitting there patiently waiting for their orders from the Planet X people, and they're just kind of sitting there, and Godzilla's kind of just like,
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like,
kind of really casual. I know there is a sitting
Yeah.
Godzilla kit, but it's
Mhm.
based on the scene from Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, not that scene. So the 65 Godzilla and the 65 Rodan sitting there waiting for their orders from the spaceship, which maybe we could have a spaceship above it too. It could be like a whole diorama. Those are my two. I'd love to see that at some point.
look at Kyle. He's smiling over there. Look at Kyle.
It's awesome. I mean, I know Kyle. That's his baby too. That movie. All right, now costume wise, this was a tough one too. I think
Ooh.
I had one in mind, but then Christine changed hers a little bit, so I changed back. So Kyle, without further ado, that is what I would have to be one of the citizens of Planet X, and I'd have to rock those pointy shoes, the curled up toes.
Yep.
And I think that would be so cool. I think the red dots would definitely be decreasing if I put that on. You know,
Oh,
You'd have to go
David.
clean shaven. You'd have to shave.
I'd have
Oh,
to.
yeah. Wait a minute.
You know what? If somebody buys me that costume, I would definitely shave for that. And I don't know if you still have it, Kyle, but it's just kind of a funny thing. If I were going to do a character in drag, you still have that.
Ooh.
It's
let
not there.
me grab it.
See if you
Let me
can
grab
grab
it. It'll take me a second.
This is what I would do.
Oh, it's gonna take me a second. You got to vamp more.
Well, anyway,
Vamp a little. Vamp a little.
Type it up, David.
a beautiful glittery alien that I would love to wear her outfit. And yeah. Well, if it
All
doesn't come up, it is.
It's
the
coming. It's
cow.
coming. I got it. I
It
got it.
turned into slugs, though.
There you go.
You have to have the little rounds, dude.
That would be if I were to go to a drag ball. That's what I would. Those
That's
silver
awesome.
Very
glove,
stylish.
man,
Exactly.
you know, I could rock that, and I would definitely shave my beard for that too. So, I just had to throw that little one in there for Pride Month, you know. you know, in my drag Toho persona would be the Keelot Queen. Keep it warm, baby.
Those fabulous gloves.
Christine, how about you?
Oh gosh. So yeah, this was a tough question. I have a lot of favorite scenes, but of course I've got to go with a scene from Godzilla versus Biollante. So a scene that I really liked was
Wait, you switched
where
it.
No,
Did I
this
switch
is her.
it?
No,
No,
she
I
didn't
switched
switch
my
it. This is her
costume.
scene.
Oh, okay,
this
sorry.
is not her costume. Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So where Miki Sagusa is standing on the helicopter pad facing off against Godzilla. I think that was so cool because she did delay his attack for a bit. And I like the part where she was using her psychic powers, you know, kind of like flash of that red color. Now, as far as someone to sculpt it, that was hard because I feel like this would look really good as one of those Yuji Sakai, the Complete Works dioramas. You know how he had those, like the little scenes from the movies and like this. I think it would look really great as that. But I love Toy Graph. That's my favorite. And you know, Toy Graph hasn't really done any, never did any of the Heisei series. It was all Showa era stuff. So I would love to see a Toy Graph 89 Godzilla. I'm not really sure how that it may be paired with a little mini Mickey on a helicopter stand, but I mean, I always loved this scene. I thought it was so cool, and like she was one of the, you know, only human characters who could communicate with Godzilla, and she was able to fend off and slow him down from his attack on Osaka. So that. No, they're connected.
Now,
I love that scene, Christine.
he killed Shindo in the next film. So why did he spare her life? He should have killed her.
So
They
mercy.
got a connection. They got a connection.
It's deep. You're going into
That's
deep.
buddies. That's
He
right.
killed Shindo because it came full circle, I think.
They
Right?
had a connection too.
Yeah.
But they had a connection too.
Yeah,
they like
that's
recognized
true.
each other.
On the island. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that's true.
I was mad that he killed Shindo because Shindo was like all up in his like trying to help him and whatnot.
Well,
That was very sad.
Because he came back, remember? Because they had moved his body, and then he came back. He was nasty. He
True.
was nasty. So
Yeah.
maybe it was like,
Great. This scene is great, Christine. Great choice.
yeah,
I
Yes.
Yeah,
so
they did.
impactful to me.
yeah, I love that one. So okay, so the costume. Originally, I had picked Namikawa in her alien outfit, but another outfit that I absolutely love by her, and you don't really see it a lot. So when you're first introduced to Namikawa in the beginning of the film, she comes up and she buys the Lady Guard, and so you see her walk in the rest. Leslie, I love this outfit. So
I love it.
first meet her as representative of, hold on, because I wrote it down because I forgot it already again. The World Education Corporation. I forgot what I said earlier in our chat.
The first ever lace front. That's what I'm talking about.
I love this outfit.
It's fierce.
Classy.
Fierce.
Like, yeah, she looks very classy. It's like it kind of has like that 50s kind of vibe with the hat. Because actually, you know, my grandma has a hat almost similar to this. It's a different color, but with the lace over the front. Super. I love like the retro vintage kind of stuff. And like she pulled this off. And I remember when I always would see her walk in that first scene wearing this. Man, that's a classy woman right there. And I love this outfit. I would 100% wear it. And she just looks sultry and womanly, and it's a very beautiful, classy look. So this is the outfit that I would choose. I would represent the World Education Corporation and the Lady Guard.
I think that's the job you just got, isn't it? Isn't that the job you just got?
Huh?
Isn't that the job you just got? Working for the
Secret, secretly taking over the world.
That
All right,
hat,
John.
so you know that hat that was common to be seen at church with me growing up. You know.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Oh yeah, that's standard. I mean,
He ain't lying. He
the
ain't
mothers
lying.
and the sisters, they're kicking the hats, man. There's nothing like them. But that, you know, I would love to see, and he already actually Sakai-san actually has already sculpted this, but I want a 30-centimeter version of Godzilla 74. You know, with the electrical lines or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I would love that. Yeah,
Magnetic power.
yes.
Or you can just call it Godzilla's magnetic personality.
Yes. Just keeps
No imposter? You don't no imposter? No imposter?
No impossible.
You know, I'd love to. If I had a dream toy, it would be like the Combat Joe, but a foam Godzilla out front and Mecha
That would be
Godzilla underneath.
awesome.
So you could just. That's my ultimate.
Hey John, you know what? I was gonna surprise you, but when I head up that way in a couple months, I'll bring this so you can see it and take pictures of it. And
If you do, that would be phenomenal if you do that. If you feel like doing that, would be awesome.
Yeah, I can do it. That way you can maybe, make some awesome pictures of,
Yeah, because I'm working on something.
Okay,
And,
well, in that case, I'll bring it, and that way.
That would be terrific.
Cool. That'll work.
Now, right back in 1974, the costume I would want would have to be that of Kyle. I don't know if you have the picture. Now, I was a junior chemist for about 5 years, so working in the lab was my thing. So I would want to be dressed like Professor Miyajima here, and just along with his most powerful pipe, and that would be like everything. Okay, that classic, jacket, kick it. Gotta go scientist all the way. Now I don't know if you got my other image.
Kabuto.
I love it. It looks like sugar ice cream.
That will be the other option. I'm not the cockroach, but I sure go full fashion plate with that one. I mean,
that was a bad suit. I ain't gonna lie.
Yes.
That was a bad suit.
That was a bad suit.
Okay.
Stylish.
Yes. The aliens.
That's my favorite.
And so they're my answers. Great question, Chris.
Yeah, it was a good. It was a fun question.
Yeah.
All right. So for me, coming up with a scene you want your favorite artist, your sculptor, to produce in a vinyl form is very difficult, or not just a vinyl form, but in a physical form. It's very difficult because there are so many amazing scenes in all these films. Yeah. And every time I thought of a scene, I was like, God, you know what? They've already done that. So Chris mentioned Yuji Sakai, and Yuji Sakai is like the master of many, many Godzilla sculpts. And he has done quite a lot. So maybe instead of having Sakai do something, I would rather see a soft vinyl representation of the appearance of Godzilla in 1965's Monster Zero when he's being pulled up out of the lake. Yeah, again, there's a gorgeous kit of that. Yeah. But I've never seen a Sofubi style of that, and I would really love to see that. That would be pretty cool.
A Parababy.
A Parababy set would be fantastic. They already did the oh, that's not the right one. They did the saucer.
The saucer.
So you could technically have one where it's like the saucer and then Godzilla in his little bubble. But that's I'd love to see that kind of thing. Actually, someone did make some really expensive Godzilla and Rodan figures that are in bubbles, and I've seen them on Yahoo Japan show up every once in a while. And I've always been like, too rich for my blood. But regardless of that, there was the question of the costume. And so, I'm sure I would love to wear a Planet X alien costume. That'd be great. But, the other thing that got mentioned was that you'd have to shave your beard if you really wanted it to go off. So I'm like, well, damn, who has a beard or an acceptable beard in the Toho Godzilla series? And the only one that I could think of that I think would also be kind of funny is to get the corncob hippies costume from Godzilla versus Gigan.
Yes, perfect.
Oh, that you could do that.
I could rock that. I like how he's wearing gloves.
Accessory.
Yeah. He thought it was a gun.
Corn not included. Oh man.
All right, so those are my answers. All
right, next G-Fest. We all need to have costumes now.
Yes.
Someone did a corncob hippie at one of the more recent G-Fests. I remember. I don't get a chance to really see the whole procession of costumes at that event, but it's a ton of fun.
That I took of that costume in our group. It's a fantastic costume.
Right on.
I don't remember her name, but she rocked it. It was great. It was really good. She had the corncob and everything. It was great.
Oh shoot, who was that?
Okay. Well, let's move on to our second question, which comes from Mr. Alex Sawyer.
Hey, gang. I've been working on this guy for a little bit, and it got me thinking. Where would you like to see Toho and Legendary take Godzilla next? Me personally, I would love to see Godzilla in the Edo period and the Aztec and Mayan time. I think there's a lot more opportunities for new stories to be told. How about new monsters we can actually see and hear? I think that's something that we can do. I say stop going forward, let's go back. I'll see you around. I'm going to continue working on him.
Great question, Alex.
Question, yeah.
Thanks, Alex.
Made me think.
All right, Leslie, what you got?
Actually, and this is an idea I was toying with for a long time. Actually, I would like to see like a mini series where, because I think sometimes like some of the best shows involving certain icons, sometimes the best stuff are the stuff that doesn't have that particular icon in them. Like for example, Joker is it's like the best Batman movie, but doesn't have Batman in it. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Or Smallville is a great TV show about Superman, but Superman does not exist on the show just yet. So you have those shows that kind of like tell little small details or small stories that kind of build upon what we know about the character. So I wouldn't mind seeing like a little mini series where it'd be like a YouTube or a Hulu thing or whatever, where they go into certain stories from the Showa period, like
You take
they
mine?
like so they can explore like the mysterious ship disasters from 1954 that lead up to the original Godzilla, or the attacks that people are having in the mines. This mysterious attacks by these worms that the events lead up to the original Rodan. Just little certain stuff that kind of like show a more in-depth story on how the monsters that we know to be monsters became monsters through certain events. I think a certain like just a mini series like that you could devote to the Showa series, to the Heisei series, but a backstory told about some of these monsters, I think is a good thing, and also doesn't like, I know we love Godzilla or whatever, but sometimes you can throw so much Godzilla out there that it creates Godzilla fatigue. So why not just show the backstory without showing Godzilla, but you're still celebrating Godzilla, if that makes sense. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what I would do.
Wow.
What about you, David?
That's really insightful, Leslie. I think that's a fantastic idea
Thank you, sir.
I would love to see realized at some point. Maybe we'll just have to do it our damn selves, I don't know, but I love that concept. And as far as my choice, I really love Alex's suggestion of Godzilla in the Edo period, but that would be a bit challenging because it's before he was radioactive. So don't really know how we would do that, but it's still a great concept. But my idea would be a film set right before the happenings in 1954, and it would be Odo Island would be the setting. So we would learn about what actually happened when they were talking about when the fishing was poor, they would sacrifice a young girl on a raft to appease Godzilla so he wouldn't rampage the village. So I would love to see that just before the events of 1954 happened, and it would be the Godzilla that we knew. It would be somewhere after the Bikini Atoll atomic testing and the actual events of the 54.
It's like the Rogue One of Godzilla 54.
I'm sorry?
Like a Rogue One to
Yes,
Godzilla 54. Yeah.
Exactly, Kyle. Exactly. A Rogue One 54. And then we could learn about maybe the characters that were on the ship that got killed. Like we could learn a little bit about them and why they were out there. They were out tuna fishing, like the actual, boat, in the real life story. But I would just love to see that and how they incorporate the Odo Island natives sort of incorporate Japanese folklore, which I love, and the legend of Godzilla and a reanimated dinosaur, how all that sort of culminates into what we actually see in the 1954 movie. I think that would be so great. I would love to see it. And strictly tokusatsu. I don't want, CGI can enhance it a little bit, but I want old school techniques. And I don't want, I want it to be set and like really, faithful to that time period. And I just think that would be a really, really great thing. Kyle said it, the Rogue One of Godzilla 1954. That would be my choice, and I would love to see that happen.
That would be
How
awesome.
about you, John?
Oh, well, you all kind of stole my thunder, but I have a couple to add.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
Sorry.
Well, I'd like to see a series, and they've kind of done it. A few, several Ultraman series have done it. Tell the history of Toho and the making of Godzilla and Ultraman, and show the sets, but show.
Damn.
And so the Tanaka-san and Honda-san and Tsuburaya and all the heroes, unsung heroes behind the scenes, as well as in front of the camera. And the other series I'd love to see, I'd like to see a TV series of the Showa Godzilla and a recreation of those suits and those kaiju, and kind of a tribute, those films, but that old style, get the suits back on, and try almost not remake those films, but explore, other aspects of them. But actually, Dawn, I want to see the 74 suit again. I want to see, the 64 suit again. All those wonderful suits recreated and cast again in a tribute or some type of homage to all of that time.
Basically, Showa 2.0, right? Showa 2.0. Okay.
John, have you ever seen the Ultraman? It's sort of like a making of Ultraman dramatic reenactment show.
I saw that. Yes, I've seen. Yes, I think I have a clip of it. Ultraman.
So this is a clip from it right here, just for people watching. And basically, what happened is Tsuburaya Productions worked, I think, with TBS. Please correct me, someone out there, if I'm wrong. And they decided to do essentially like take certain elements from the making of Ultraman and then show the sort of drama behind those. So here's Sibo's.
I love it. I love it.
Anyway, the thing that I have was basically downloaded from 3 different YouTube videos, and I stitched them together. So there's like no subtitles or anything like that. But I would love to see some stuff like that. That would be amazing, dude. Yeah.
There was an episode of Ultraman Tiga. That's where I think this is the second to last episode. There's Tsuburaya and the original Ultraman are there, there in the episode itself. I love that episode. So yeah, that would be awesome. Christine, what's your answer? What would you like to see?
So I had a couple different ideas. I would like to see maybe like a little spin-off episodes of maybe Adventures of Little Godzilla.
Oh wow!
On the island, we know space.
Do you watch Goji Ban already?
I watched a few episodes. Yes.
Okay.
I would like to see it like live action, like 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 someone in the suit and all that, and like I would like to see him fighting like little tiny monsters and working his way up, and then
Christine likes her little Godzilla to be super.
I know. And then Junior, I would love to see something following Junior, as he's growing up and moving through the world, maybe fighting, maybe having more kind of like a fatherly son kind of bond with, Godzilla teaching him how to hunt and teaching him how to fight other kaiju. I think that would be, I absolutely love Junior. I love Junior. So I would love to see maybe a couple little, maybe mini episodes or mini movies featuring little Godzilla growing up and learning how to fight, learning how to fire his atomic ray, maybe fighting other monsters, defending his territory, learning how to hunt and all that kind of stuff. I would love that. I love cute stuff. Goji Ban is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. If you guys haven't watched that, it's such a cute series on YouTube. Oh my gosh. I love watching it. I haven't seen all of them yet, but I try to catch them when I can. But yeah, that's what I would like to see. Some of the spin-offs of Godzilla and Junior. What about you, Kyle?
Well, I think I was pretty vocal about not wanting Legendary to do more in the Godzilla series and wanting to go back to Toho. So I have a couple of quick. I'm going to say some things really fast. Number one, if Toho was to pick things up and start making movies again, I would hope that Toho would focus on making solid movies. And I like the idea of going backwards, doing what a lot of us have already talked about. It's like sort of doing these interstitial movies that happen in between the other films or before another film from the Showa era. Someone in the chat was actually saying it's very clear that the Showa era is like a favorite of people because that's what we want to see more of, right? Like if someone said, hey, do you want to see more Heisei era Godzilla movies? Like I would have to say, I mean, maybe, but you know, I love effects. I love big explosions. I love all that stuff. But in the long run, I want the movies to be complete films. And that means enjoyable tales from the human side, which I didn't really think the Heisei era had too much of. But anyway, if Toho does it, right? I would love for Toho to spend some time focusing on that. Now let's talk about real quick, if Legendary were to continue doing stuff. I know a lot of people were like, oh, well, what if they got the Toho license back? I still would not want them to work on Godzilla stuff. I would want to see them, Legendary, tap directors to do maybe remakes, American remakes of other things, like Varan, you know, a nice Varan, or even a Mothra movie, a standalone Mothra movie. That kind of stuff. I wouldn't be upset if Legendary pursued that. And like for me, one of the very last episodes we did on the Kaiju Cast, we talked about that. Like, who would you like to see? Someone asked who we'd want to see do a Godzilla movie, and I'm like, I'm too close to Godzilla. I would rather say, oh, you know who would make a really cool Matango remake would be Guillermo del Toro. Like that kind of those kinds of pontification, like thinking about who could make a good this or that. Like I like that for moving away from the big G and focusing on some other storytelling aspects. And I think that's what it sort of boils down to me is I'd like to see more time invested in not Godzilla specifically, but the mythos around Godzilla, a mythos around the universe, be it Toho or Legendary. Anyway, that's
a really good point.
I like that.
And I have to say, I love every single person's answers. They're all great. I'd like to see everything done like that. I mean, it's just exciting to me, and it just makes me think about why I don't love the direction that the movies are going in now. I definitely want to go back, and it's just exciting to me. And I wish I had the ability to be a writer. I am not a good writer. I have great ideas, but as far as like translating it into like a novel form, that's not my cup of tea, sadly. But maybe I should hook up with somebody who is, because I've got a lot of ideas up in here. And I know John and Kyle do too. And Leslie's idea is great too with the Megan Euron story. Damn, cool. Great question, Alex.
It's so much you can dive into, especially with the Showa stuff. Like, how do they collect the monsters, you know, before Destroy All Monsters happened?
Right.
Oh, what happened in the interim? And you know what? If we can go to the Ultraman side. What happened in the interim period between Ultraman's exit from Earth into Ultra 7's arrival? What happened? You know, there's a lot of stuff that they can go into.
Yes.
Ultra Q.
Oh,
more Space Godzilla. More Space Godzilla. We want that. Yeah, we sure do.
More Violante. Violante.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, our third question comes in from Greg Benton, who has a question that made me think quite a lot about the answer to this.
Hey, Collect All Monsters crew. My question for you guys is pretty simple, but also one that leads to hopefully some really cool stories. I was actually talking to some of our friends, Gordon Flynn and John Penra earlier, and we were discussing a particular figure, and they were looking for recommendations on this figure, and it brought me down a very nice path of nostalgia. And I was wondering, what figure caught your eye when you were younger, or maybe just not able to purchase that figure, and it just kind of stuck with you? What's the figure that stuck in your craw for a couple years or weeks or months, and you just had to have it? What was that had to have figure? And you know, for a lot of people, it's going to be Noughts. Okay, I need to have one of those. Or for a lot of people, it's going to be like a Marmot Desugoji, and I completely understand that. But I'm hoping to just kind of like figure out a little bit more insight into where you guys were at and when you guys were at with your collecting. So for me, it was in 1998. I was 15 years old, and I walked into Mitsuwa Marketplace, and I saw this beauty. And this is what I was talking about with John earlier. And at the time, he was retail $60. And you know, nowadays, I spend $60 a week on Godzilla figures, at least. But at the time, at 15 years old, I could not afford $60. So when I got into collecting seriously, I had to have a Bandai Grand King Ghidorah. Okay, I'm too old for him to devour. All right, he's the killer and eater of children everywhere. You know, as opposed to Gamera, the protector of children everywhere. So, that's friends, right. Collect All Monsters crew. What was that figure that you saw and had to have, and then you subsequently tracked it down and got it? Go!
What you got, Leslie?
Well, I can't answer like when I was younger, because I wanted a lot of things when I was younger. But there was one thing. When I first became a collector, I started attaining these treasures. You know, S Plus is cool. You know, Marmot kits, Marmot figures are cool. But there was one figure that I saw. I was like, you know what? I had to have it. And coincidentally, it was made by two of my best friends and guys that I love absolutely to death. So with that being said, here he is. The Asai Gabara 30 centimeter kit. And of course, I just said that it was made by two of my best friends, and they are Steve Sevajoli and, of course, our very own David F. Dopko. They're both my best friends. I both love them to death. As I understand it, this is a Steve Sevajoli and David F. Dopko co-production, so that means it's flawless. It is flawless. I think Steve did the eyes, and David did the rest of the kit. But this is, in my opinion, and I'm going to steal your word, David, the quintessential Gabara. Now, you mentioned Gabara earlier, and I was going to show him then, but I didn't want to spoil it because I knew I was going to have this answer, this representation for the answer to this particular question. But once I saw this, I was like, I had to have it. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I mean, of course, it's, you know, you can try and find a kit, but trying to find a kit of this guy is like trying to find, you know, a thin person at Church's Chicken. It's just not going to happen. But I wanted this one because they were made by two of the most talented and awesome artists this community has ever seen. And I saw my window and I jumped through it, and it cost me a little bit, but I'm glad to have it. And I am never, ever going to sell this guy. If I go into bankruptcy, if I lose my house, I guess it'll be me, Sandra, and Gabra in a cardboard box. But I'm not selling this guy. But this is, like, in my opinion, the best version of Gabra that you will ever find, better than S Plus, better than anything else that you ever find. I know Gabra's a monster that don't get a lot of love, but daggone it, I love Gabra. I love Gabra. So I want to say thank you so much to Steve, and of course, David. I love you. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate this. This is this is mind blowing. So, you know, he's in good hands, and he ain't never going anywhere. So with that being said, speaking of David, what's your answer to this awesome question?
Well, thanks, Leslie. Thanks for all those kind words. I'm all red now in the face. Thank you so much. You're way too kind. Before we start, my husband Keith just joined the chat, and he chimed in on a movie choice to make that we'd like to see make, and he said a backstory on the Shobijin Mothra twins.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be
I think
great.
that's a great
That's
idea.
great.
I would love to see.
Yeah.
Way to go, Keith. Thanks for watching. All right, so let's get to my question from Greg. This is way back when I was still living in New Jersey, and I discovered that New York City has a lot of awesome toy shops. This is like 1980, probably 1988. I'm going to just use that year, circa 1988. So I used to go into the city, take the PATH train from Newark, and get off on Christopher Street and then walked down to Bleecker, where there was Village Comics and the store that I'm going to talk about, Children of Paradise. And I usually went at night and the store was always closed, but I could see what's in the window. And in the window was this guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Great monster series.
Yes.
1964
seeing those
Bandai Godzilla. And he was sitting in the window. I guess Greg asked, how long, a week, a month, a year. I guess almost a year. I would go into the city and the store was always closed because I never could get there during the day. And finally I got into the store. I think I went on a weekend and I went into the store and the price tag was $200. And that was kind of expensive even back then. Definitely expensive for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working at a restaurant called The Office, kind of like a Bennigan's type place. And I worked extra shifts. I saved my pennies and I finally got the $200, so I could still pay my rent, et cetera, et cetera. Got on the PATH train, went early so the store would be open, bought the Godzilla. Now this was the 1988 version of it. It wasn't the original 84 version. It was the 1988 version. So, and it wasn't the big collector's box, the cardboard box, but it had Godzilla, writing on the outside of the box. And I remember paying the $200, probably plus tax, and I carried that sucker in Manhattan down Bleecker Street to Christopher. Got on the PATH train, got to Newark, and I got all kinds of stares from people in Newark. They're like, "What's that? A dinosaur?" I'm like, "Yep, yeah, it's a dinosaur. Whatever." But I carried that sucker home on New Jersey Transit to Cranford, New Jersey.
Oh.
And I finally got it after months and months of staring at it through the glass at Children of Paradise. Now, flash forward to about 2 years later when I actually met Keith and moved in with him in the East Village. I actually ended up getting a job at Children of Paradise on weekends. So I ended up working in that shop that had like all kinds of cool vintage stuff, Billiken, the tin wind up Bullmark stuff, all kinds of fun stuff. I got most of my vintage Bandais from Children of Paradise. That was basically my pay. I never actually took a paycheck home. I just got toys. And it was just the coolest shop. Like working in there, I saw people like Penny Marshall came in one time looking for something for her granddaughter. Bruce Willis came in. He was kind of a jerk.
Okay.
Oh my gosh!
I don't know if you remember Lauren Hutton. She was a model / actress from the 70s. She had a gap between her teeth. She was really pretty. One of the first supermodels. Anyway, she came in, and I pinned a pin on her lapel. And then Gregory Hines, who was a famous tap dancer, who lived in the West Village, came in. He was a super nice guy. Anyway, enough about that. That was my first. It was stuck in my craw, Greg, for almost a year. I ended up getting it. I love it. I still have it. It's awesome. And yeah. So how about you, John? What is your craw sticking figure? Or item?
It's so funny because I thought you were going to do the one that I selected out of my collection.
Ooh.
And then the funny thing is, before you revealed that Bandai, I was going to go reach up on my shelf and pull it down because when I saw it back in 84, it took me until 91 to get it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because it was too much. It was too expensive for me.
Very expensive.
When it was released. But I have one that took over 40 years to get, and it was Ken's Godzilla from Godzilla versus the Door to be able to get the Bullmark giant Godzilla, to get this.
Fantastic.
40 plus years in the making. I never thought I would have it. So that's the one.
That is the one. That absolutely is the one. And I'm still looking for the vintage version of that. I have the repro, but that's on my list right now. That's in my craw right now to get that one. So I'm keeping my eyes peeled on Mandarake and Showcase Daikaiju. So yeah.
If I see it, I'll give you a shout out if I see it.
Please do.
Absolutely. Christine, what about you? What was that figure?
So, all right. First, before I do the figure, I just want to respond to a comment. Samson asked if I was eating something off the floor. I do have a bag of chocolate on the floor. I need some snacks. So I was, yes, eating chocolate from a bag on the floor. I was trying to be indiscreet, but I guess it didn't work.
Eagle Eye Samson over there.
So the question, mine's actually not a figure. It's a little bit different. So this one's actually been about 20 years that I've been wanting this particular thing. So way back in the day, probably in like 97 or 98, back when I was in middle school, we first started learning how to use the internet. And one of the first things I searched was Godzilla. And all these images came up of these beautiful paintings of Godzilla by Bob Eggleton.
Wow.
So one of my favorite images, I would print all of his pictures off and like stick them in my binders and my locker and all that. And one of my favorites was his cover for the Dark Horse Comics Godzilla. It was Horror on the High Seas, Godzilla versus the Spanish Armada, where Godzilla's like rising up out of the ocean. He's got like this greenish kind of hue. There's a storm going on in the background. And I remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, I would love to meet Bob Eggleton. Like someday I want a painting by him so bad.
Awesome.
So 2018, I finally got a painting by Bob Eggleton. And it's, of course, Biogoji.
That's amazing.
So
That's cool.
I didn't really tell him exactly what I wanted. I told him that, I'd like that cover and then I wanted Biogoji and to just, go whatever with what he was feeling on how it came out. So I was totally not expecting it came with Biolante's vines in here and like it has the acid spray on them, but I could not be happier with this. I think I actually cried when I first got it because for like 20 years, since I got it, 2018 is when I got this. And I never thought I would actually own like an actual painting by him, but it's beautiful and like just it's really hard to see in like pictures, but like the picture in person looks like it's glowing. Like his eye here, I don't know if I can get it, but he has like this beautiful golden eye that's just like glowing. And this is something that I've wanted since middle school, and to be able to get this was just definitely a dream come true. And it's always been stuck in my mind because I remember I wrote a story in high school for English class about Godzilla, and I used one of Bob's prints as my picture cover for the story. And so hopefully I would like to turn it into like a 3 set. So I want to get maybe a Rose Violante done by him and a evolved form Violante. So that's so that was mine. It's not really a figure, but that's something that I've wanted for a long time. It's been stuck with me, and I finally got it.
Outstanding.
I'm happier. I love Bob's work, and it's just very special to have.
Indeed.
All right, so on
very
to you,
happy
Kyle.
to own a Bob Eggleton original in my collection as well.
Yeah.
My co-hosts hooked me up
Beautiful
from the Kaiju
stuff.
Cast, hooked me up with a Rodin piece, which is just gorgeous.
Nice.
And yeah, like what you were saying, pictures don't really do it justice. Seeing it in person is the only way to go there. So for me, I was telling Christine this, like a lot of figures have sort of stuck in my craw. That's usually what happens. I don't usually get something right when I see it. So days, weeks, months, whatever, a figure I see may take me that long to get it just because I don't prioritize it or what have you. However, I have a pretty good story to share here. So way back in 2001, the little movie called Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack was released, and then later on we found out that one of the original stories had Varan and Angulus as opposed to Mothra and Ghidorah in the film. This was a image that I found online way back in the day of those sculpts, and specifically the Varan sculpture, which like honestly, this was like the best photo I had of it for the longest time. And I just remember being like really in love with this idea. I love Varan as a monster design, and I really, really wished that I could have seen this in the film. That said, however, as we know, that was not meant to be in the film. But several years later, M1 released a model kit of the 2001 Varan.
Awesome.
And I've showed this
Brilliant.
off on the program before.
Brilliant.
This is absolutely one of my. I mean, if you're just gonna use the word craw, this stuck in my craw since I saw the concept art, and then when I found out that someone actually made an actual physical piece of it, I was like, man, I would love to have that. And when I actually had the ability to purchase it, I jumped at the chance, despite it being one of the more expensive pieces in my collection. It was just like, I gotta have it. So I guess that would be my answer, is the 2001 concept Varan. But
awesome.
So many potential stories all around me for that.
I know.
Yeah, and Kyle forgot to mention that he built and painted that, and it is one of the best, most unique paint jobs I've ever seen for a model kit. It's really, I mean, go back and watch what do you know what number episode that was, Kyle, that we talked about that?
It was a model kit episode number.
Okay.
I think it was 5. Episode 5. But yeah.
Yeah, just go back and watch that show where Kyle goes into detail about how he actually built and painted that particular figure. It's really inspiring and it's beautiful. And you know that I will be so lucky if I ever get that kit in my collection as well at some point. Not that kit, but a kit. You know what I mean? That's his kit. but it's beautiful in person, and he just go back and watch that one. It's awesome.
You're right. Episode 5. I just checked it. It is episode 5.
Episode 5. Cool.
Right on.
Check it out.
Cool. Well, let's go ahead and rush off to our next Q&A question, I guess I should say, from Ryan here. Woo, yeah, woo.
Yeah.
What's going on, guys? Ryan Wilhelm here. Thank you so much for taking my question. So I'm curious, what was the piece you spent the most time searching for? And when you acquired it, was it worth it? Thanks again. Have a great day.
All right. What do you think, Les?
Well, for me, I'm going to breeze through it, but basically, I became an S+ collector back in, I think, 2012, 2013. And, you know, I was getting my feet wet as a collector or whatever. And once again, I've attained some great stuff along the way. But there was one thing that I've always wanted to have from S+, and I tried to find it. And when I did find it, it was way out of my price range. But I didn't give up because I do have it in my collection. But the one that I always wanted to have in my collection is, of course, the natural colored version of the 1954 Wonderfest Godzilla. You mean I've showed this guy on a program before, but this was the one I really wanted to grab, and now that I do have it or was able to find it, it was so well worth it because they have not reissued this, you know, in this color. They probably reissued like the black and white version from Diamond or whatever, or maybe the RMC version, but they have never reissued this natural colored version. Now, mind you, this is not what we saw in the original film cover, the black and white. And I'm normally a stickler for that. Normally, I want to have the kaiju representation of what I have seen in the films, but I am willing to make exceptions to that rule. This is an example. You probably can't see him, but the multicolored King Ghidorah. At first, you know, I'm all about the Golden King Ghidorah, but that is a cool figure, so I had to have him. We just talked about Varan. You know, they have made a Varan in a brown version, even though the film was in black and white. So with that being said, like I said, this was the figure that I've been hunting for years and years and years. And now I have it. And I've always said this in Facebook or on my videos or whatever, especially when you're a new collector. And, you know, sometimes we miss out on getting the things that we want. But I always say it's not a question of if you get something, it's a question of when. If you're willing to put in the work and you're willing to put in the time to try and find what you want, you will get what you want. You just got to put the work in. I'm living proof of that. All right, David, what's the answer you have to this?
Wait,
awesome
I gotta real quick say almost everybody else while Leslie was talking there at the end was doing like money, like Megan Rain. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
What happened?
You were talking about having the time and the energy, putting the time and the energy, and then everybody else is like, and the money.
I mean, yes, money does help because you're gonna need it to get it, but sometimes it takes like being up at 2:00 in the morning if you can't sleep and you scouring online, you know, whatever. That's what happened to me. I saw this guy on Mondo, and it was a good price. It wasn't horribly overpriced like I've seen on eBay here in the States. It was a good price. I had the money for it, so I jumped at it, and I'm glad that I did. once again, this is a figure, at least the color wise, they have not reissued as far as S Plus. S Plus loves to reissue pretty much everything. This is the one figure, at least one of the few figures that they have not reissued yet, at least in this paint scheme. So for that reason alone, it makes him super, super rare. So I know if I were to sell him, I know I would get big bank for it, but I don't want to because it took a long time to get here, to get this guy. So that's why I cherish him the way that I do. So
Awesome.
Very cool.
Yep.
Go for it, David.
So most of you probably going to think I'm going to say the Knots figure, which definitely would fit that category because I wanted that figure from the moment it was announced. And, I've told the story before on the show. I ultimately have one, and it was painted, a custom paint job by some awesome people in Japan, et cetera, et cetera. But I have to say, since I've been on the internet in the early days of the X Plus group, you guys who were there will probably remember what my grail was. And I was searching for it for, I think it was over a year. And it was this guy right here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
25 centimeter crawling Baragon. And this one was so elusive back then. And, they had figures of Baragon standing up and this and that. And I wanted to have a crawling version. And I really loved this sculpt. And I kept missing them on eBay. I even everybody who I knew had one, I sent them a private message saying, hey, how much would it take for you to sell that to me? And no one would take my offer.
That's dude. After we did our Frankenstein Conquers the World Daikaiju discussion for the Kaiju Cast, I took a picture of me holding a crawling Baragon, which is a Volks Orient Hero resin kit. And I remember you messaging me and be like, would you be willing to sell me that? No, that's not X Plus, buddy. But you were after it for a while. Yeah.
Shoot, I remember that. I didn't miss a trick. Like I think I emailed everybody, including Robert Dwyer, who's like, well, I would think about it, but my better half bought this for me as a gift, so I couldn't see myself selling it. Now, there it is right there. And when I want something, I don't play around. Like, I'm going to give you a serious offer. Like I'm not, gonna beat around the bush. Anyway, long story short, it kept going on and on and on, and no one was coming through. And then finally, I saw one on eBay, and it was being sold by, I think, a now defunct seller called Monsters, not Monsters in Motion, House of Monsters from Chicago.
Oh yeah, I remember those guys.
Oh yeah,
and they had a lot of kaiju stuff. Back in the day. And I saw this guy, and it not only was the crawling version, it's the Rick version with the light up horn.
Oh wow!
So there was I don't think there was any bids on it yet. And it was at a certain price, which was expensive, but it wasn't over the top. It wasn't over the moon. I was willing to pay more. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to bite the bullet. So I emailed the guy and I said, hey, I'm going to give you this much if you end the auction and sell it to me right now. And he did. Wow. And here he is. So I hope for my toy karma that there wasn't already like a small bid out there, but whatever the case may be, he's mine. I got him. And then they reissued him like about 2 years later. But it's still like the hunt is part of the fun. Like it's frustrating and challenging, but it can be fun. And those of you who the old timers know, before the internet, we used to have to go to physical shops to hunt for these things. And you never knew what you were going to get. Sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you'd be surprised. Most times you come up with a big goose egg. But anyway, this is the one. X Plus 25 centimeter crawling Baragon was my grail. That's it. John, what's yours?
Well, my grail, the item that I searched for a long time, I knew about it for a long time. And there were different iterations, but actually getting it seemed impossible. I mean, it took 5 years, if not a little longer. And a couple trips to Japan, I searched for items, for this character. And David, you have one. I really wanted one, and the only representation I could find was at Nakano Broadway. And I think this was $30. This little
Passion Boy.
Yeah. And a cute one.
And finally, during the pandemic, I believe it was, because I've shown it, before, I finally got the X Plus Travel Meme Boy.
So cool.
Took a long time, and I didn't sit on it. When I saw it, it was going to be mine. Don't hesitate. He who hesitates Will not get the early worm.
Early bird gets the worm.
Whatever you call it.
Hey,
He who hesitates does not get the Pashimboya.
hey, man. Hey, you might want to hide that because if Sandra sees that when we come up there, she may want to take that home. So you might want to hide that. I'm like, she loves Passion Boy for some reason. Like ever since yes, like I don't know why. Ever since she saw it, she was like, I got to have it, which is why I bought her the shirt, right? And she wants, she wants. I'm trying to get Mark Sang-Yang to make her a figure of it since we can't find a Passion Boy anywhere.
Yeah,
but for some reason she loves that thing. So like I said, hide it because we're gonna take it.
Now I know which one to stow away.
There's a few different sizes of Passion Boy pieces out there.
And if they do a soft vinyl representation of Passion Boy, which I think would be great, like an M1 or Armid or something, would you get that? Would that be your first soft vinyl figure?
I would get it for Sandra.
For Sandra.
For Sandra,
Fair
yes.
enough.
Yes.
I have a blog post about Travel Mean Boy, which would be Compassion Boy. There's you can get many different vinyl iterations of the figure. They can be pricey, and hard to come by. But keep an eye on Mandarake.
Okay.
They pop up every blue moon.
Okay.
Christine, you're up next.
All right. So mine that I spent the most time searching for. So it was actually a kit. It originally came out back in the 90s. The Kyoto 1/80th scale Biogoji.
Oh, wow.
So I remember seeing this back in the day when I first got on the internet, and I was like, so it's this mass. Actually, technically, I don't actually have it with me physically. It got reissued in 2017. So I was right on that. As soon as that went up, I think I got it off Hobby Link Japan or one of those. I don't even remember, Hobby Search maybe, and instantly put in an order for it. It's actually right now. So here it is. It's our good friend Steve. He's gonna be building and painting that for me. So I haven't been able to touch my own kit. However, I have seen it in person. I saw it actually in person at AlienCon. Actually, I think it was Steve that brought a kit up to the show, or he had made one for someone that had it at the show. So it's huge in person. I remember I was able to put my arms around it. I took a picture with it, but I have wanted this since the 90s. And the kit back then, I mean, whenever I would look for it, was like anywhere from like $3,000 to $5,000. And I didn't have that kind of money back then. So when it got reissued in 2017, I think it was about $1,500. And I was like, all right, I can do that. Put on my credit card, paid it off over a couple months.
Right.
And so I'm so excited to finally have this. I got a spot for it already.
On the floor.
Yeah, no, he's not going on the floor. I put it on the shelf. It doesn't need a shelf space for him.
That's an iconic piece.
Yes, and I love the pose, and I can't wait to have. I have this. I know exactly how I want it to look too when I have Steve paint it. I want him to have the fins kind of like a bluish kind of hue on it, so it looks like he's powering up. And I want the 89. So I know the 89 doesn't really have the golden, he's kind of got more like brown eyes. But I kind of like in the later series where he's got kind of that gold color. So I want a little bit of mix of gold in there to really make his eyes stand out. But I remember when I saw this on the internet way back in the day, I was like, I need to have this. I need to have this.
I didn't know
It's huge. Yeah, it's a gigantic figure. I think it's like, 3 or 4 feet tall, like almost 6 feet long, something like that. But I mean,
yeah, so it's bigger than you.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. I was able to wrap my arms so big that I had to wrap my arms all the way around it when I saw it at AlienCon, and I was like, wow, this thing is so amazing. I'm so glad I got one. And that was the one that I've definitely spent a lot of time searching for, and it was 100% worth it. And it'll be 100% worth it. Yep. And I can't wait to get it and display it and just love on it every day when it gets here.
I didn't know they reissued it. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was for a very short time. I don't know how many they made, but as soon as I saw the announcement they were going to be reissuing it. It's back in 2017, and as soon as it went off, I set my alarm. and I was getting that sucker, and I was like, oh gosh.
You're the only one of us who has it, I think, right? No one, none of the rest of the cast has that.
Yeah, I don't have it.
That was always too out of my range. Wow.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was hard.
it's a little much for me. Yeah.
John,
it's expensive.
John and Kyle, do you remember a magazine way back when called Kit Builders and Glue Sniffers, where there was a whole article about they call it the Big Mother. That's the name of it. They call it that. That was
that's hilarious.
Kit. And it was by David Barker, who used to do all those dioramas and exploding scenes of Godzilla. And it showed him step by step how to build that particular kit. And I think they had a cartoon in there that said, never build a Godzilla bigger than your door frame. I'll take a picture of the article and I'll post it in our group. It's really funny.
That's great. That's funny. Yeah, because I'm actually going to have to rent. So I know Steve has built some for a few people. He's actually working on Rich's right now. And he has to actually ship it in 2 separate boxes because the tail has to become separate. So what I'm going to do is when it's ready, I'm going to go drive down to Las Vegas, rent a big van. So because I'm afraid to try and put the tail on by myself. So I'm just going to have Steve have it. It's all ready to go. I'm going to drive down in a van, pick them up, bring them home.
That's fun.
Yeah, so it'll be a fun little road trip. Get to go to Las Vegas.
Strap them on your bike.
I know, right? I'll get a little seat for him, passenger seat.
Sidecar.
Sidecar, yes. Okay, that would be worth the price of admission right there. Sidecar.
So that's my piece. And so what is the piece that you spent the most time searching for, Kyle?
Similar to Greg's question, it's like I see something I want and it doesn't really necessarily, like, I'm a cheap man. I will pay the least amount of money I can for something. So sometimes that means I see an item that I want and I will attempt to get it for the price that I want it. So David showed an X Plus Baragon from their 25 centimeter line. I'm actually showing off the X Plus 25 centimeter Gigan.
I remember that.
Because as many collectors of X Plus know, there was a long time where they were not reissuing 25 centimeter figures that often. And I was like, dude, I really want this figure. But every time he sold on Yahoo Japan, and he was never on Mandarake at the time I was looking. So every time he sold on Yahoo Japan, I would like go put a bid in. But I did what you're supposed to do. I was like, okay, well, what's the most amount I'm willing to pay for this figure? And I would put that in and I would walk away. And every freaking time I was getting outbid. And so we're talking about, and I know Rich is not watching. Rich Iso, by the way, we used to chat a lot more. And when I was building up my X Plus collection, we would, not just Rich, but a whole bunch of people in that group. Samson is also part of the group too. We would send each other links. Dude, did you see this? This is up for sale. Did you see this? This auction just went up. And so there were a few figures of the series that I wanted like that. But the Gigan, I kept getting outbid over and over again. And one day I just added way more than I wanted to pay. And I did win him for a reasonable amount. And then, of course, a year later, they reissued him with the Megalon.
Do that.
Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it works.
That is absolutely how it works.
So in the long run answer of was it worth it? I think yes, because in the waiting for some of these figures to be reissued, I already had like the Megalon when they released it as the 2-pack. So I was like, well, I would have had to sell the Megalon. And so I'm glad that I picked this up. And it's not the light up version, but that's okay because the light up version of this Gigan, it has that super pain in the ass where you got to take off his head to turn the thing on and put it back in. You'd have to have like a hairdryer on hand anytime you wanted to be like, hey, look at this cool feature. So that's the one that I would say. Yeah,
that's the one I have, and I lit him up once.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our next question, which is from Greg Coggin.
Hey, everybody. Coming at you from the Pacific Northwest. I'm here at Lake Rossiger in Washington on a trip, first trip in a long time. First, before I ask my question, I just wanted to say, been pretty, an interesting year, obviously, but getting through this pandemic, collect all monsters has been kind of a nice diversion, good way to get through it. I've been enjoying, just the collecting, the hunt, the box days, seeing all your box days, enjoying the Saturday shows, the watch parties we were doing, all that stuff, kind of helped get through this mess. My question is about model kits. So I'm getting back into building kits. It's been a long time since my first kits were done when I was 12 years old. I guess my question is, where's the best place to find these kits? It seems like when I'm looking around, I've seen what appear to be bootlegs, or I wouldn't want to buy something bootleg if that's out there. So any tips on how to find some of these resin kits, vinyl kits would be awesome. And thanks again for everything you guys are doing with the group. Cheers.
Thanks, all right. So
Thanks, Greg.
actually, David, if you don't mind, I just have I don't know if every one of us can answer that question, but I have a very quick tip that might be the same as what you're going to say, David. So for model kits, the best thing I found is that you should have friends who already build these kinds of model kits. And I'm not saying like befriend them, but do it. Befriend people like David, like Ryan Mitchell, who's in the chat right now. Ryan's in the chat. He's a great resource for kits. And as he says, don't do boots, kids. Stay off of eBay. I hate to throw out a blanket statement, but if you go onto eBay and you see a kit you like, and it's from Thailand or Taiwan, I would avoid it. It's most likely going to be a recast unless it's super expensive because it's an original. And those kits, they can be expensive, but they're expensive for a reason. And so what I would say is, Greg or anyone else who wants to get into model kits, the way to get into model kits is to get a friend who already has an in, because it's a very gate-kept world, not just because of like skill level and stuff like that, but because in Japan they have very strict rules about who they can sell to, and they don't really want to break those rules generally. So that being said, I have no more to add. David, what do you think, man? How do people get into model kits these days?
I was going to say something similar to that, Kyle, because myself, like, I'm lucky to have a few connections in Japan, because sometimes, like as far as the KOC kits, which are really popular now, you have to order them directly from the sculptor himself. And that's really hard to do if you don't speak the language or have a connection with the sculptor. I say you could, some of these sculptors actually have Facebook pages, so you can actually, befriend them and chat with them. But for the average person, Mandarake is always a great resource to look for model kits. And it's a little challenging what to search for. If you search for Godzilla model kits, you might not come up with much. But if you search for Godzilla 1954, you'll see a whole bunch of model kits come up in between the soft vinyl figures and the toys, etc. So Mandarake is a really good way to do it, where you don't need a proxy service. There's an English site. It's pretty self-explanatory, and you can have them shipped directly to your home from Japan without the use of a proxy service, which I don't tend to use because I think it takes a lot longer and they tend to be pretty expensive. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just not for me. Also, when they start doing these conventions again, these live conventions, that's a really great place to see model kits. Jersey Fest is one where there's a lot of model kits are available there. Robert Trock is one that like knows all about Jersey Fest. He's a great person to talk to. Also, Kaiju Modeler that shows up at G Fest every year. They have tons and tons of like those really awesome resin pieces that are really hard to find. So if you can make it to one of those live events, that's a really great way to do it too. Billiken is really frustrating because Billiken has they've been reissuing a lot of stuff lately, and they sell out like so quick. So you have to really be fast on the draw for Billiken. But it is challenging. I'd steer clear of eBay because of what Kyle said. A lot of the times you can't tell whether it's a bootleg or not, and the prices seem to be like really, really inflated. Yeah, just be patient and ask one of us who have been in the modeling game for a while, and we'd be glad to help you out any way we can. So yeah,
I would point at David. I would point at Steve Saragioli,
Yep.
Ryan Mitchell, who's watching right now, Robert Trock. I don't know if he's part of our group, but all of these individuals, they've been in the model kit game for a really long time. They're just a way better resource than Dr. Internet's going to be for you.
Yeah, it's tough. So, John, do you have any extra tips about model?
I don't,
No?
because I don't build them. I have a small collection of them. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's definitely a niche collecting aspect. I like a little bit of everything. So I have model kits, soft vinyl, and X Plus. So I like a little bit of everything, which is kind of cool, and the paper goods and the nostalgia stuff too. Yeah. So I like to have my hand in a little bit of everything. But there's people who know far more about the modeling world than I do. So seek them out or ask me, and I'll point you in their directions, because I get a lot of help from them as well. So
yeah, I think eventually what we'd all love Collect All Monsters to be is like just a fantastic resource for these types of things. If person A is looking for item B, like how do you find that? And like for people to be able to come and like just even to the group and say, hey, how can I get this? I feel like we have so many people in the group right now who are just very helpful. And I'm talking about, of course, I'm talking about our Facebook group, guys. We are on Facebook, and that group is the Facebook Collect All Monsters Monster Collectors. If you're not a member of that group already, I'm not just blanketly throwing out some stupid name of a Facebook group. We really do like to hang out with our fellow collectors online. And so again, as a resource, we would love to help facilitate those kinds of, that kind of passion, really. Yeah,
absolutely.
And we do some fun stuff, fun group stuff.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Christine, have any suggestions as well?
Well, I was going to suggest Mondo because I'm not really into kit building, but there is that group on Facebook, the Kaiju Kit Builders Club. Yes. I would think, that would be a great resource as well, because it's all people that, buy these kits, put these kits together. So I would say, if you're not already a member of the Kaiju Kit Builders group, then I would say join that, and that'd be a good start.
Great suggestion.
Right on.
Basically, what they said.
They didn't say the group though.
Basically, what everybody said, I'm saying what they're saying. That's what I'm saying.
Christine's just automatically on defense. She's like, stop it, Leslie.
You always pick on me, Leslie. So.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our final question, which is from Samson West, who is watching live. And he didn't have one question. He had basically a question for each of us. So I will actually, I will pause in between the questions so that he can get those answers.
Excellent.
Hey, you awesome Collect All Monsters hosts and Collect All Monsters viewers. Godzilla fan here, Samson West, and I have the end-all question for you guys. So, you all have such epic facial hair, and it's so great and it's so wonderful. Christine, when are you going to grow out your beard and mustache? No, kidding. But I do have a question for each individual host so that I can kind of give you all something to answer. Kyle, you have a huge variety of items in your collection. I've seen you don't just collect kaiju, you collect other fandoms as well. Do you find it difficult to balance between collecting kaiju and collecting from other fandoms? David?
Answering the question right now, yes. I did find it difficult to balance my kaiju collecting versus like superhero or comic book collecting and Star Wars collecting, because what would end up happening is I'd get something from one of those other things, which I don't love as much as kaiju, and then something would come out and I'd be like, I don't have the money for that now. Yep. So if you watch, I'm not suggesting anybody watch it, but if you were to go back to the Kaiju Cast channel and watch like from 2013, I did a tour around this room with Keith Foster of Kodoja, and it's so different. There's like superhero figures on the shelves and everything. There's a bunch of Star Wars toys. Basically, at some point, I decided that I was going to stop collecting those things, and really, what I collect is kaiju stuff. Obsessively collect. I also do collect some Hellboy stuff, Hellboy is for people who don't know, Hellboy is a comic book, and it's got a lot of great lore behind it and a lot of great stuff. So I collect that stuff, but I don't go crazy for it like I do with the kaiju stuff. I'm very reserved. It's all about the books in many ways. The kaiju stuff is about the movies. It's all about the Hellboy books. And then Star Wars stuff, I basically just said only bounty hunters. And then that's it. That's how I decided to whittle down what I was doing. And now I don't have that problem where I see something from Star Wars and I'm like, oh, I'm going to throw down all this money on it, because I know that the focus of my collection is this room, which is 100% Japanese kaiju. It's 99% because there's yokai stuff and there's some super robot stuff, but it's all related in my opinion. Anywho, let's get to David's question.
You are the kaiju customizer extraordinaire. Your paint skills, your customization skills, just everything about you being able to take a vinyl figure or a kit and transform it into a kaiju piece of art is just, I can't even think of words to describe it. I know that you prefer to use the paintbrush method rather than anything else, but have you ever thought about using airbrush? Has that ever crossed your mind that you'd like to try to dive into it? Or have you ever tried to use it in the past? And Leslie, you have...
Stop, Sam. Okay, go Dave.
Well, oh shucks, thanks again for the kind words. You're making me blush again. I'm turning red. Just to backtrack a little bit, I've stayed at Kyle's house, and all of the stuff that's not in his Godzilla room is in the guest room. So I get,
that's right.
I get to sleep with Hellboy and Star Wars, which is really cool. So it's still there. It's just kind of moved to a different space. There's probably less of it than last time I was there. I don't know if you're selling it off or whatever, but there's definitely other stuff at Kyle's house, but not in that particular room. So I have seen it.
I'm a well-rounded nerd.
You are definitely hey, I've got some Star Wars stuff too, and I love the bounty hunters. So not a whole lot. I've got a little section of Star Wars, and I really like that too. So, and of course, yokai. I can't resist getting some good yokai stuff. But my answer, Samson, is no. I have never tried to do an airbrush painting model kits. I actually won an airbrush at my second G-Fest. In the model contest. I got like some kind of a runner-up prize I did a customized Godzilla Jr. Kyoto kit. I took dorsal plates from a broken 95 Godzilla. So I made like an older version of Godzilla Jr. So I put those dorsal plates on his. Anyway, it won like a prize in there. And the prize happened to be, it was kind of cool. The prize was an airbrush and a Sakuda Hobby Mogera 94. So
nice.
No, I haven't used it yet. It's still in the box. I'm really afraid to use it because I really would have to take classes in it and really learn how to do it properly, because I'm so afraid that it's gonna like glop out too much in a certain area and lose some of the detail on a model kit. I should eventually try my hand at it, but you need a big space to do it, number one, and you should probably do it outdoors, and you need special types of paint. And I'm just so used to doing my painting the old school way that it's kind of hard to change, teach an old dog new tricks, whatever. Having said that, though, it would have been great to have utilized an airbrush doing those large resin KOC kits with all of those really deep scales and things, because I've had to do like several coats of a base coat to make sure I get all that in there, and even water down the paint so it gets all the way to the back of those cracks. But no, that's a really good question, and I should try it. Maybe one day I will, but I haven't done it yet. I know Steve is a master at the airbrush, and he does a really fantastic job. Maybe if I ever get down to visit him in Las Vegas, he could give me like a quick tutorial on how to use it. So I do have one, but I've never used it. Hope that answers your question. And
all right,
I guess John's up next.
You ever tried to use it in the past?
Well, I rewound
it.
Leslie,
you have one of the biggest and best X Plus collections I've ever seen. You seem that you're an X Plus enthusiast all the way. Do you have a different figure line that you like to collect other than just X Plus? Do you have something else that tickles your fancy more than just X Plus?
All right, Leslie, you're up.
Yeah, I'm gonna breeze through this too because I really don't have that much because I'm more focused, especially now with the amount of space that I have left. It's mostly X Plus, but I do dabble in the Roto Kaiju, of course, the Kong stuff, the Roto Kaiju Kong stuff. As far as like new stuff, I did get my hands on the 1999 giant size Gamma from Prime One. I am getting I know I said it many times before. I'm getting the upcoming Spiral Studios King Ghidorah 2019. I'm getting that. So yes, those are the primary companies that I go after outside of X Plus. Even though I'm not going after the Prime One GVK stuff, I'm sorry, that's just too expensive. And I have seen some folks actually. They're starting to sell their S Plus Gigantic Series figures for the new stuff that's coming, which is fine. They can do what they want to do. You know, you got the Spiral Studios stuff coming. You got Prime One out there. You got this news company, Omega Beast, and they're bringing some giant size figures.
Yeah,
but,
that's crazy.
But for me, I can't abandon the S Plus Gigantic Series. I can't do it. I'm not trying to say that's what they're doing. But I love these things. I love the gigantic series from X Plus, and I just can't see myself apart with them. But to answer your question, Samson, Spiral Studios and Roto Kaiju and the Prime One gives me like another classic giant size character, kind of like what they did with Gamma. Then I probably go after that one as well. So those are my primary ones I go after outside of the X Plus, and get X Plus is more than enough, quite frankly, considering what they're putting out. But yeah, those are my primary ones: Spiral Studios, Prime One, and Roto Kaiju. Yeah, they're the ones my paychecks are going to. Yes, they are. Yeah.
John, speaking of tickling your fancy, I noticed that you love books. You love books, whether it be pictures or just novels, anything that has to do with kaiju, but in book form.
Sorry, the volume got all loud there on the music.
What is it that made books such an important part of your collecting, the way that you collect for the family?
Really sorry about that, Sam. So John, that's for you, and basically he's asking you what makes books such an integral part of your collecting journey.
You know, we were talking about Father's Day coming up. Well, growing up, my dad he was a school teacher for 30 plus years. And so we were surrounded by books, just rows and rows of books in our basement and upstairs. So that's played a big part. Anything I got interested in, I bought books for. I mean, I was a chemist, so I have a chemistry library. I went to seminary. I have over 3,000 theological books.
Wow.
And, and so with Godzilla's likewise, I'll get the children's book all the way up to the try to read this and then work my way up to the big tomes, so it's just anything I'm interested in. If I'm really passionate about it, I want to know as much or have as much information around me about it as possible. Great question. Thank you, Samson.
All right. So unfortunately, there is a question for Christine. And because the music was just so overwhelmingly loud, it was louder than your voice, Sam. I hope you don't mind if I just paraphrase for you. But basically, the last question was specifically for Christine. And it was, Christine, how do Muggles feel about you when you tell them that you're in not just a generally male dominated fandom like kaiju, but also in collecting, but also just a fringe, something fringe like that? How do the normies treat you?
So it's interesting. Usually they think it's really interesting. I haven't really actually got picked on it much about it. They're like, oh really? That's like, how did you get, like, why Godzilla? And then they would always tell me stories of, oh, I used to watch Godzilla back in the day, and some people don't know about Godzilla, and they'd be like, giant dinosaur? What? You like dinosaurs? I'm like, heck yeah, I like dinosaurs. I remember when I was in elementary school, we had a contest in second grade. Who could read the most dinosaur books? So we had this paper pterodactyl, And every time you read every time you read a dinosaur book, you put this egg underneath it. So I had like 3 rows of eggs all the way to the floor. I was into those dinosaurs, man. But no, people usually react pretty well. Actually, at my old job when I was in New York, I used to bring, every time I got a new Godzilla figure, I would bring it into work to kind of show off, and all the girls loved it, and everybody would come over to see what I got next. And I mean, they really liked like the representations of Godzilla. And actually, kind of a cool story. So when I first moved to California, we hired a company to come and just like clean a couple of the rooms out for us. So I was showing the woman around on which specific rooms I wanted to clean, and we had walked by my collection room. So on the way back, she kind of like peeked in, and she was like, oh, Godzilla? And I was like, she was an older woman. I was like, wait a second. Oh, wait, you know Godzilla? She's like, oh my gosh. She's like, me and my husband watch Godzilla movies all the time. She's like, we just watched one. So she came in, she took pictures of all my collection, and I was like, like one of my first times here. So I'm like, I love you. So of course she was hired on the spot. So you can come back here anytime. So no, it's been really positive. We'll say definitely a very positive experience. And I mean, I'll share Godzilla with anybody. I always tell people at work or any of my friends, I will talk about Godzilla all day, every day. You got to shut me up because I'll just keep going. I love my toys. I love talking about my toys. I love talking about the movies. So yeah, no, it's been a really positive experience. And I met a lot of other female collectors in the fandom as well. So that was exciting for me because, in the beginning, you feel like you're all alone. And I remember when I first started collecting, before I was in any of the groups or all that, I felt like, that there wasn't anyone else like me who was into that stuff. And then you get online in the groups and you find out there's this huge, giant community of all these people that have the same interests, the same kind of passion. So that really helped me out.
Excellent.
It was a great question, Samson.
Great
questions for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for the questions. I really appreciate that you took the time to ask us questions. It was great.
Yeah, it was fun. A lot of really good questions too.
Yes.
Had some great discussion topics.
Made us think.
And because I feel a little bit bad about that audio thing, here's Sam saying goodbye,
That's
basically.
it. Thanks for having me, you guys. Everybody out there, have a good night and have a great show to you hosts. Thanks. Sayonara.
There you go. Well, thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam, Greg, Ryan, Alex, and Chris. You guys are awesome for submitting those questions. I think we will do more of these in the future.
Absolutely.
However, before we move on, just because at this point, why not, right? We did get one more question in, and I just have to get to it because it wasn't a video question. Robert Hill had a question for us. He was a part of our, monster garage sale that we had a few weeks ago. He asked, what I think it's a general question, but I think it might be just for me. What kind of event would you rather host on behalf of Collecto Monsters? So everybody answer this. A trip to Japan with your fellow kaiju enthusiasts, or B, a local kaiju meetup that is tied to G-Fest in Chicago, but lasts for about 2 full weekends.
Oh, that's a tough question.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I agree with David. I know exactly what David would say.
Japan.
Japan.
I agree. Japan.
Yeah.
Japan.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, Robert. And if I haven't said this, because I don't try and talk about it a lot on the show or stuff, but basically I run Japan tours and Japan trips. So eventually, once travel opens back up and is safe, there will be opportunities for collectors to go on some collector trips with me, and maybe some of the other Collecto Monsters hosts. We'll see.
Absolutely.
As David likes to say, mimicking the great Tomiyama, of course, there'll be a slight fee. So, and it's going to be way more than slight to go to Japan, honestly.
Yeah,
but
it will be worth every penny.
Yeah, it will be worth every penny.
Yeah.
Ironically, that's the main reason why I'm not doing the GVK stuff from Prime 1. Don't get me wrong. It's a great set, but all that money that can be put towards that can be put towards a Japan trip. So that's what I'm doing.
That's good money for a Japan trip.
Beautiful place.
Yeah, I think you're never going to get an argument from anybody in this group, and you know, and Leslie has not been, but like everybody else who has been, we know his enthusiasm for wanting to go. I actually can't wait to go with Leslie. Like,
Me too.
I have this amazing idea for the co-hosts to go and basically film the whole trip and make a travel log that that gets essentially crowdfunded by people who love the show. So we shall see. Aw, Keith said I'm the best Japan guide. Thanks, buddy.
Yes, he is.
So yeah, a lot of people in the chat right now are like Japan. So
Absolutely.
I mean, we want to go.
Can't
Everybody
wait.
in this group wants to go together, and I want to go with more collectors. I've said this many times. When I came back from my first trip with my wife, I remember talking to her. I think we were still in Japan at the time, and I was like, "Can you imagine what it would be like to see Rich Iso's face as he walks into Mandarake?" And then we went ahead and did it. You know?
Did it. Now, the next 2.0 is going to be Leslie Chambers and Sandra, their face when they get into Mandarake or anywhere.
Or Express headquarters.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's it.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
already thinking about this stuff,
Yes.
guys.
Wonderful.
I've already got the itinerary half planned.
That's worth the price of admission. And then we'll have a little side trip to Osaka Castle.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's right.
Kuriyama Flower Park. We gotta go down the Godzilla
That's a
slide.
long walk, boy.
I didn't say walk.
Oh, I went around that castle about 4 times. Oh my gosh.
Long walk, yeah.
It was a long walk. We walked from one station to the castle, and through the castle, around the castle, and back out.
Wow.
I was looking for
Kaiju Addict asked, "How much would we recommend to save for a trip to Japan?"
At least.
Great question, and I've gotten this question a million times. And what I'd like to tell people is that I could come up with some basics for you on how much money you should bring, which would be like a bare minimum for an amount of time. But really, when it comes to spending, if you have the ability to see something you want and just get it guilt-free, that's what I would honestly shoot for. You'd want to be there and you'd want to be able to go, "Oh my gosh, I want that. I'm going to buy it." Not, "Oh my gosh, I want that, but God, I don't know if I have enough money for that," or "I don't have enough money for it." Right. So I would say save your money, bring lots of money, you know. Worst case scenario, don't change it to yen, so you still have your American dollars. So if for some reason you don't spend it, you still have it. But you can do all sorts of awesome stuff for not so much money. And David, when we went in 2019, in February, we were there for a 2-week trip. And in terms of raw cash that I had available, I think I spent under $1,000.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Now that's not including the flight, not including the hotel.
Right.
That's like eating out, going to buy stuff, and that just depends, you know. Like if you have a voracious toy appetite, that's not going to do you very much, you know.
Right.
Like so it really all depends. Sorry for the weird answer there, but you know what I did last time is I said you should definitely bring at least this much money, and then but if you want to spend, you should bring more, because it's about the experience, in my opinion.
Right,
you know,
absolutely.
and it's some people it's a once in a lifetime trip. Other people it's a life-changing trip. It changed my life, and I decided I had to keep going back. So I would say treat your first trip to Japan maybe like it might be your only trip.
Right.
That's a great point.
And then so yeah, save up a lot of money.
Yeah.
Take some money. You know what I did, honestly, before my first trip, with my wife, I sold a stormtrooper costume, and basically gave the guy a deal. He paid me in cash like the next day, and I took like $700 to Japan, $800 to Japan with me, that I was able to easily just kind of blow through at my own leisure. Anyway, I don't need to keep talking about this stuff. There's a bunch of people who are saying some awesome stuff in the chat right now. You guys are awesome for watching. We have had
Yes.
a consistent 40 plus people
Thank
watching
you.
us all
Wow,
through this
guys.
Long
episode.
show too.
Thanks for sticking.
Faithful.
Long show, and it's not quite over yet
No, it's not.
because that was the end of our Q&A. But now we're going to